Have you ever interviewed in an organization and after that interview, you just told yourself that you're not going to take that job whether you're successful or not? What made you say so? How was the feeling like? Why did you get to that point that you say that you know you can never apply for a job in that organization, or even if they give you that offer, you will not take it? How good it is. So that is what I want to talk about today in this video, and it is called candidate experience. If you've ever felt so, this video is for you. And if you've never felt so, this video is also for you, so that you're able to learn on how to tell a good or a bad organization through the interview process. Welcome to this video. My name is Nelly Akungu, and in this video, I want to talk about how to build a great candidate experience. I'm going to share 9 tips on how organizations can build a great candidate experience to help them attract and get the best talent out from the market. So stay till the end, because you're going to get great insight, whether you're a recruiter, whether you're an employer, whether you are a job seeker, which will be very, very important in helping you to know an organization well, even before you decide to go and work with them. Yes, so let's get to it. Number 1, it is important to begin by defining what candidate experience is. Have you ever heard this word, and what does it mean to you? So candidate experience is how a candidate feels about an organization after experiencing the hiring process. I'll tell you for a fact, some hiring processes can be very, very bad until a candidate comes out and they're like, okay, no, just as I've already said. So then why is a good candidate experience important? The main reason that a good candidate experience is important is because an organization, you want to keep your reputation out there very good, because it helps you to attract good talents, and it also helps you even with your customers in the market. So that is the basic reason why a good candidate experience is important, just to help you keep a good reputation in the market as an organization. So then, as an organization, how do you build a good candidate experience to those candidates who apply for jobs who never get to get the job in the organization? So a good candidate experience will make candidates feel good about your company, and a bad one, of course, will make candidates feel bad about your company. And research shows that if candidates feel bad about your company, they are likely to tell other people within their network about it. And this is posing a potential risk of you losing good candidates even in the future, because now these good candidates will not be willing to apply for jobs in your organization. Another thing that candidates who go through a bad candidate experience can do is not to apply for vacancies on your organization in the future. So again, in general, it increases the risk of you missing out on good candidates, and of course on you painting bad your reputation out in the market. So let's get to it on how to build a great candidate experience as a company. Number 1 and most important, if you want to build a great candidate experience as an employer, as a company, is to make sure that you are hiring for real jobs. I know this has been a challenge. This has been a conversation that has been on for quite a long time, where you see candidates saying that I apply for jobs in this company, I've never been called for an interview, and they begin to question whether these jobs are usually there. So as an organization, how do you ensure that you actually advertise for real jobs? This goes back down to planning and organization. Good plan and a good organization will actually ensure that you don't put out jobs that you're not actually hiring for, or you don't advertise jobs, then in the middle or maybe of the recruitment process you realize that no, we don't need this job, and at that point now candidates apply, and because you made a decision not to proceed with the hiring, you put it on hold or something. So as an organization, you need to have a good recruitment strategy and also a good workforce planning to be able to know that in like a specific period of time, this is the number of human resources that you need in your organization, this is the time that they're needed, and this is how the recruitment strategy looks like, that you're going to follow to bring these people in the organization, so you don't get yourself in the mix of advertising for jobs and the way these jobs are not filled because you realize that you don't need them. That is quite important. And as organization, you need to have it at the back of your mind that having jobs that you're actually not hiring for make you lose good candidate. So you can perform as, for instance, you can begin by performing a skill gap analysis, just to understand what are the skills that the organization has at this time, what are the skills that the organization is lacking, and then how do we bridge that gap. Number one, you can bridge that gap, just as I've said, by hiring great talents. And number two, you can bridge that gap by training. But of course, for this video, we're not, that is our whole topic, that's another topic altogether. In this video, we are talking about a great candidate experience. So once you can conduct a skill gap analysis, you're able to tell the number of people, the type of skills that you will need, and how to get them into the organization. Also, choose a job title that is relevant. Part three is make it easy for candidates to apply for your jobs. Have you ever come across a job that the application process alone is a complete turnoff? Have a very simple, very clear application process. I mean, this job seeking is a whole-time job, and having a very complicated or a very complex application process, to be very honest, will turn even the best candidates off. At least a good job application process, maybe if you're applying via system, it should not take a candidate more, I mean, just appropriate, just between 10 to 15 minutes maximum. Applying for a job for more than 15 minutes or so, number one, it is tedious. Number two, is confusing, and it just turns a candidate off. So just make, even if it is application through your career page, make it easy to navigate, make it user friendly, give clear application guidelines step, so one step is actually able to lead a candidate to the other, so a candidate doesn't have to struggle or take long. That's why you find a good candidate will get into your career page, or will click on a link to apply for your job, and they get to the job and realize that they can't actually apply because the process is quite tedious, and they leave the application halfway. So again, if you want to attract good candidates, you have no option but to make the job application process very easy. Don't make applications very long. Very long applications, I mean, just turn candidates off. Make it short, simple, the system or the application page very clear to navigate, so that someone takes the shortest time to apply for your jobs. Then number four, and most important, is to communicate with candidates effectively at every step of the recruitment process. What I mean here in practicality is, for instance, if candidates have applied for your jobs, of course, just communicate. Just nowadays, I see most organizations have, I would say, like an auto response, where once they receive your application, of course, they'll just notify you that, dear candidate, your application has been received. Of course, just to notify you that they receive a high number of applicants, and only successful candidates will be contacted, or only shortlisted candidates rather will be contacted for interviews. At least at that point, the candidate has already known, the applicant has already known, like, if my application makes it through this stage, then I'll definitely be contacted for an interview. And if my application does not make it through this stage, then I will not be contacted, which is okay, because again, to be realistic, we can't also have organization or employers communicate back to everyone. It can't be possible. So one thing that now technology makes it easy for the auto responses. You apply for a job and automatically you get an email just telling you that your application has been received, which is proper. So again, it is important that once you receive the application, once maybe the candidates have been shortlisted, for those who are successful, just to communicate to them that they've been shortlisted, and they will either, if you want to schedule the interviews, or they will be contacted later for an interview. So generally here, this point is just all about ensuring that you communicate to the candidates at every step of the recruitment process. There's nothing that candidates, and I think not even candidates, just every human being will hate, like being ghosted. And I know that is one of the worst experience, especially when someone is looking for a job. So don't ghost candidates. Get back to candidates and communicate, not just communicating, but communicating clearly, providing timelines. If you've said you'll contact a candidate for an interview, let them know after how long, just within an estimated period of time. Communicating to candidates is one great way of ensuring that you create a powerful and great candidate experience. Then the next point, which is number 5, is to give candidates information about every next step. What I mean in this point is that you've already contacted candidates and told them that you'll contact them for an interview. So it is very key just to inform them and tell them that this interview will be physical or it will be virtual. During the interview, maybe for the first level interview, you'll meet the hiring manager and maybe a team of other two or so. So the candidate is able to plan, and even in terms of how they prepare. I remember someone was telling me the other time that they'd gone for an interview. Of course, it was not for a very senior level role, just to get into the interview room and get a panel of 9 people. So that can be quite shocking, disorienting. Someone can easily begin to get nervous. So it is important that you give full information to candidates about each and every process. What is it that take part about the process? How many interviewers will they be meeting? Like I've talked about it, the constitution of the panel. How long maybe will an interview take? I just tell a candidate will be scheduling for an interview, maybe at an estimated 40 to 45 minutes. And what format will it be? Will it be structural, or which type of interview? Then again, what is the dress code? So it is quite important that you tell interviewees, or rather the shortlisted candidates, information about each and every step. Another thing, and that is our point number 6, is to give full attention to candidates during the interview. Look at it this way: a candidate walks in, gets the panel, or whether it is virtual or physical, and there's a lot of distractions. I've experienced, or I've had stories of interviews where one member of the panel had to walk out of the interview in the middle. Maybe one had to drop off. And I've also done a video. I've done a video especially for interviewers, that is the panel, on interview pre-works. So for the interview pre-works on how do you ensure that you prepare well for an interview? Because again, it's also lack of preparation, especially on the side of the interviewers, that can cause a lot of distractions during the interview. From receiving phone calls because either you're here for this interview for 3 or 4 hours, you didn't leave your house in order, or maybe who else will be sorting out customers in your absence. So then when there's a need, or when a customer comes to your desk, then someone will automatically call you when you're in an interview. Or another thing, because you have a pending work and you're there in an interview room with your laptop, with your machine, and as your other panel speaks to the candidate, you're busy working, doing this and that. That causes a lot of distraction, and a candidate will be left wondering, were these people ready for me? And again, that also has potential in completely distracting the candidate and just putting them off. So it is important that you plan well as an interviewer, as the panel, so that you ensure during the interview you minimize the distractions. So the next point on how you can build a great candidate experience is communicate to the candidates that you're no longer considering for the job. So let me give you a practical situation. You've done the first level interview. Maybe you had a specific number, and only 3 or 2 or whatever number are recommended for another level. So you have these candidates that were made it to the first level, but are not going to make it to the second level. So it is very important that you just communicate to these candidates, and of course just thank them for that. Is now the aspect of giving feedback after an interview comes in. Just communicate to the candidates, tell them, just appreciate them for attending their first level, and of course let them know that you will not be proceeding to the next level. Sometimes I've seen scenarios where organizations wait until a successful candidate reports is when they give feedback to all the candidates who did an interview. It is just proper to communicate to these candidates, especially the candidates who have not made it to the second level or to the next level of the interview, that you'll not be proceeding with them. And again, also after the last interview, sometimes you can get that you're interviewing many candidates, but you only need one. But in this interview, you get even like 5 or more than 1 or 2 who are very good and who you feel can be a good fit for your organization. So what you need to do at this point, you will have this 4 or whatever number that you like to put in your database for consideration for future openings. So don't just keep a candidate's profile without telling them. After the conclusion of the final interview, of course, you've settled. When you have a final interview, maybe you'll rank candidates or based on the performance. You have number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, up to number 5, and maybe the panel has decided number 1 up to 3 are good and they can actually be considered, but you're only filling one position. So that means you're only going to take one person. So at that level, it is recommended that these 2 that you want to keep their profiles in your database, it is proper to communicate to them. Just, of course, just informing them that you're successful in this interview. However, we'll not be placing you immediately, but we would like to put your profile in our database for consideration for openings, where of course, for opening that match your qualifications in the future. Then a candidate now sits back wherever they are. They know they were a good fit, but they will not be considered for an opportunity immediately. Rather than just keeping quiet, you leave candidates speculating for feedback, maybe even some having to get back to you after some time. So it is very, very key that you communicate to those candidates that you're intending to keep in your database on time. Then the last one is be open to feedback. Feedback is a two-way traffic. Be open to feedback and allow candidates to give you feedback. So this is how you can do it. You can have like for every candidate, especially, you can have a feedback in 2 different ways. For number 1, the first one, for those candidates who applied but didn't make it, it is sometimes you can just a feedback platform, just send the candidates a link so to give you feedback. And the feedback that you'll be looking for at this point for candidates who did not make it, who are not shortlisted, the feedback that you can be looking for from them is on the application process. So this is able to tell you whether your application process is candidate friendly. Is it tedious? So just have questions like, maybe you like to get feedback on how our application process was. What was your experience? Then candidates are able to give you feedback to help you to constantly, or rather continuously, improve your application process. Another type of feedback that you can ask is feedback for the candidates who are actually interviewed. And at this point, you will be asking for feedback on the interview process. I mean, you're measuring the satisfaction level. As candidates, were they satisfied with the notice? I mean, the notice period or the notification, the time that they were given before they came for the interview. If you call them 3 days or 4 days before, do they feel it is sufficient for preparation? How was the panel? How are the questions? Did they feel the questions were relevant and were actually measuring what the interview would have measured? So it's a whole, like a 360 feedback on how you're performing, your hiring process is as an organization. So if you create that platform to candidates, then candidates are able to share this feedback, and you use this feedback as an organization to improve. Then another thing that you can take advantage of at this level also are to create a good image as an organization, because here we are talking about candidate experience, is to get back to candidates with feedback. For instance, if I did an interview in your organization and I was not successful, what I would suspect, sometimes I find candidates request for that feedback, and even though I was not, because you'll find even if there's feedback, but it could be a standardized feedback, just telling candidates that you went through our interview process, but because it was competitive, you are not successful. So a customized feedback, sometimes you can get to those candidates who reach out just to tell them how did they perform in the interview, because job search is a journey, job search is tedious, and if you can help somebody do it better next time, then that will be great. So thank you so much. Share, comment, and also share other ways that you think will be important in improving candidate experience. I also encourage you to share on the comment section below. Share how your experience has been. Have you ever gone to an interview and had a very bad experience with an organization? Please share, and I'd like to continue with this conversation on the comment section. Thank you so much for watching.